We are live on YouTube. Welcome and thank you for coming.
Divine Creator, we ask that the light of highest awareness fill the minds and hearts of those who are open to your light. We ask that they be assisted and strengthened in their resolve to achieve peace using peaceful means. May their minds, their hearts, and their actions reflect the divine will to good for all. Comfort, strengthen, and support those who are in a difficult situation in their mind, body, or spirit. Bring confidence to them that your divine hand is at work in their life. Amen.
Well, welcome. Good evening. My name is Reverend Mary Huber. I'm pastor currently of the Community Chapel of Holistic Healing, also known as CCWH. We are a non-denominational, nonprofit, a spiritual fellowship founded in 1977 by Reverend Michelle Lusan, who was stimulated to create this organization by Swami Sivananda when he appeared to her in spirit. We are placed in the Washington, D.C. area to be near the nation's capital so that we can be one of the great lights here for the higher awareness to flow through us to the nation's capital. And we are here generally, our mission is to aid in personal and global spiritual transformation. We have our website, ccwh.com. I hope that you will enjoy visiting it and looking at the services and such that are coming up. And we always begin all of our programs with the three affirmations of faith, hope, and charity. And that is because these are powerful affirmations channeled in by Reverend Michelle Lusan early in the organization. And they do create a complete alignment of body, mind, and spirit. So you might want to recite them as you're on mute. I'll recite them out loud for you. The faith affirmation: I believe in the spiritual existence of myself as a perfect image of the divine creator. In this reflection that is my physical embodiment, I have faith in the supreme guidance of my soul for my balance, my needs, and my opportunities. Outside of myself, there are also perfect images, and nothing can delude my thinking otherwise. Acknowledging my faith in the omnipresence of my divinity, I hope for realization, awareness, and acknowledgement of the existence of the great I am within myself. And the charity affirmation: in understanding faith, in knowing hope, I pledge my actions, my desires, and my thoughts to the performances of myself on the physical planes of the earth, to honor, to love, and to enlighten all that is a reflection of the divine outside of myself, so that my perfection is imaged back to my Creator. So help me God. And this evening, we're going to, I'm going to let Rob in to the waiting room. I was thinking about the many changes that have occurred over the years and the process of change that everyone does go through all of the time, and thought of some of my own issues or situations that have happened. And I believe that, I guess that's what started this whole ball rolling for me as far as what I think is important today. Talk about making those personal changes. And I guess my mind wandered back into the past, and I was thinking about the changes that had happened in the past. And I thought about the difficulty in various organizations and businesses in making changes from a toxic environment to one that is more positive and productive. And in my own work experience, in my profession, over the many years that I was there, I saw the many efforts that were made to make changes over and over again. And a lot of times, most of the times, after a while, they failed. And I realized that the patterns of thinking and behaviors, which show up as regulations or some kind of difficult arrangements that it's between management and the personnel have, are due to the just longevity of them being in place. And because they're so well established, they are difficult to change. And the objective, of course, to make better working environment is to be more happy and more productive because people are happy is a worthy goal. And although everybody says they want it, at every level of the company, there are some people who don't, because they have liked what was going on in the older world, and they didn't want to support the change. And there was many ways that they didn't support it. So eventually, if there were enough of them in any given time frame, everything would revert to what it was before. So there are always those people around, and this situation is not unique. I know that. It happens in all companies and all organizations everywhere, I would think. Or pardon me, I should say most. So the suggestions that I will like, just for a toxic environment, and I'm thinking not just work environment, any toxic environment that people find themselves in. It could be in the home, it could be in other situations that I'm not quite aware of right now. But the one constant thing that needs to happen is change. And when these things can happen, we control as much as we can in those bigger situations. And I know that some of these techniques that we use are personal to us, but they would apply to groups of people if it were known. Showering and changing clothes when possible before going home or out of the situation would be a wonderful thing, but that doesn't often happen unless you're in a very unique environment. We can find an energy exercise for clearing and all of that we certainly do have we'll have on our website, will accomplish pretty much the same thing, but got to be done thoughtfully and with deliberate motion and on the spot before you leave, so that those energy, that you can make the change of that kind of energy and don't take it with you. A regime of affirmations would do well in clearing energy, and especially doing this kind of a work while you're doing your clearing and cleansing, whether with shower or the other affirmations, the other energy work that you do. So that is really good. Clothing change is very important. To move from one environment to another, from a toxic environment to one that you want to live in comfortably and peacefully, would be a very important thing too, because there are elements that cling to certain things that we're wearing and that we wouldn't want to take into that other environment. I was thinking about the very long established, Eastern, I'm thinking more of the Japanese, but I could think other cultures do it too, of removing your shoes before you go into the house. And while most people originally said, oh, it was just because they didn't want dirt trapped into the house, that really is as much as clear. It's true. But I also know you don't want to bring the outside world in with you. And I think that was a good symbolic gesture on the part of people leaving everything outside and going into the sanctity of their home. So I think a lot of people should do better on making some changes of energy around them by doing some centering activity and prayer before the work starts. I mean, right before the work starts, to trying to engage a few other people in it would be helpful too. Then the flow of energy would go better in the group. So you could just do some affirmations, positive statements, or things that could be worked out with the group if there were other people than yourself. But if you're not doing it with other people, do it by yourself. So the bubble, of course, of light, which is always important to remember. It's the tube of light that we learned about from the Ascended Masters. Bringing in the tube of light is really also the bubble of light. Keeping that tube of light or the bubble of light energy around us to protect us and to filter out all of those other things would help us in being more appropriate in the moment and being able to see what change we can make. It's everything we can do to help the change process happen would be really important. So I only brought the work thing up because it's a good example anywhere in the world of what is really going on and what a lot of people are having to go through all the time. And I don't know how all of these people are resolving it, but I think there would be a lot less stress and a lot more concentrated energy in doing the job and being more focused on mental clarity would come in without that other element involved. So I think that would be very helpful. So in addition to thinking of yourself and making changes, these things are very important in the process of making change. So it's true because it's true for ourselves as an individual. We know there are some times when we try to make changes. A lot of these are habits. New Year's resolutions come in, or you want to change a habit regardless of what the habit is. It doesn't work for you because it's damaging something of maybe your body, or there's some annoying habit that you have that you want to get rid of. Those are very difficult. Again, the entrenched behaviors that have built up over time, it makes it difficult. And so we have to become resilient and determined, and so we don't get discouraged from going back and keeping on with it. And these personal changes that we're going to talk about today, it's important to remember that you have a part of the big picture. As you're making changes, you're contributing to the greater change. I know people who have been in with our group, and certainly in metaphysical studies, know that individuals do reflect into the world, not the world just always reflecting on the individual. It's very important that we remember how our importance is in the change process when we are doing our own positive changes. Because if you can make a positive change, it reverberates into the world on levels that are unseen by us and may never be known to us while we're here on the planet. And it's very important that we have positive energy in great numbers in humanity. And I believe that this is the part of the elevation into the Christ consciousness that we are all ascending to. We do need to see our own efforts as being much more meaningful in the world. And that alone is part of the process of change. It's being invigorated to do it. It's, instead of getting tired doing it, remembering this, how important it is, the contribution, this small thing that you're trying to do is greater than what you imagine it to be. It helps buoy that up and helps us keep pursuing, no matter what the difficulty is. So when you're in the spiritual path for some time, it can be more difficult to determine what changes we need to make. It was easier in the beginning when we first started off. We had bigger things to deal with, and we addressed them, and it was easier to see what they might have been. But as you're refining everything, as you're going along in your spiritual path now, as you're more senior in this, it's a little bit more difficult to see, because a lot of those ingrained behaviors that we have that we could change, that would improve us, that would put us a little bit further ahead, sometimes we're not aware of them. And I think that's the main problem, because it's not in the lack of desire. It is sometimes the lack of identifying what it is. So it's important that we also realize that these changes are not to make us a different person. We are to be who we truly were born to be. And it's just refining, getting rid of, some people call it the barnacles that we have accumulated over lifetimes, and we have to just keep working on it until they're all gone so that we can just shoot through life without any resistance at all. So it's important that we realize that who we are is not to be essentially changed, because this can be misinterpreted from the spiritual messages that some people have picked up, that you're to obliterate your personality, and that's not true. God depends on the wiring that's been put in us at birth, and the intention to create the personality was already put there by your creator. So it's just refining it to get rid of the things that we were meant to get rid of through other lifetimes that we have activated, so we can face them. So I spoke recently with a minister who has embraced the prison ministry. And I found this to be a very uplifting and insightful piece of information. There are those who don't, this is not something that a lot of people want to go into, because you're kind of serving from the bottom of the spiritual pile, so to speak. It's being, people who have a lot more challenges than the average person does. But yet those who go into it have seen it, and across the board, as a most rewarding experience. A program to bring in the Christ consciousness is making remarkable turnarounds in a large number of inmates. And the program is called Kairos, Kairos. This is I understand from looking it up, it's from a Greek word meaning the appointed time in the purpose of God. That's the spiritual version of it. There are a number of other versions of what Kairos means, but that's the one that the spiritual interpretation is. Or as some say, it is translated as God's time, as opposed to chronological time. And that organization got its start in one of the most difficult prisons in the United States, Angola, some time back. And now it's all over the world, not in every prison, to be sure, selected ones, or it's expanding. But Angola now, because of the tremendous turnover of consciousness that occurred in that, and the levels of violence that in the prison that went down, they now have 5 chapels in there and 400 spiritual activities every month on their calendar. It's an amazing success story. And that's the one that a lot of people relate to. But everyone who has been in here has their own amazing experiences of turnarounds. In the Angola prison, they had decided, because these are all life-term people there, they're not going to get out of prison ever. They decided that they could allow them to go for a 4-year education in theological seminary. And when they graduated, they then became prisoner priests. And they are the most effective priests or ministers you will ever see in a population that is so difficult to handle. And they conduct all of the church services. Here, and one the one article, or actually the I guess a recording that was done by the fella in England, he was saying how we don't see how, when you go to church, you don't see the great changes or wonderful things that happen where people open up to Christ there. You don't ever get to see those things because we're on a different level or plane. But when you go into these situations and you see dramatic changes from somebody who was really dark, and dark thinking and dark behaviors when they have completely changed and they're in the program and they're preaching the word of God. He said, this is the most amazing, like they're like miracle people, and they do such great work because they have been there, because the people who need this change will listen to them. And it affects everybody, and it has created such a wonderful environment, better environment in the prison. I don't think the prison can be wonderful, but anyway. So if you want to look those people up, I think it's worthwhile look. It's KAIROS, Kairos.prisonministry.org. And you can get some information if you're interested in that. But, imprisonment isn't just a reference to those in jail. Everyone is impeded by their own particular restrictions, which have been their own challenge for this embodiment. So in some way, shape, or form, we're all have been affected with restrictions, which is an imprisonment of sorts, a spiritual imprisonment. So these are, if we haven't cleared these obstacles, they're really our own prison until we break free of them. And change is about clearing these final obstacles which stand in the way of true freedom in God. The world is very different, this one that we're in now, than the one we were born into. Most of us are older, and we have experienced a large number of changes over time. This world now is encouraging the embodiment of the spiritual world that we live in, the embodiment of the highest principles and standards, so that we meet our spiritual obligations before God. We have been speaking many, many times about the new world coming in of the Christ consciousness and how we are accelerating in our understanding and our behaviors in it so that we can be in it. We can live it every day. Those are the real changes that we are looking for now, those things that will bring us definitely on that footing and keep us there and without all of those attachments. So it's the purpose for each human being. There is a plan, and that's what a lot of people need to hear. And you who are familiar with our group, you know that we have a long-standing conversation about reincarnation and karma, and in a lot of our presentations. One has to begin by understanding this about themselves. They are the fact that with all of that going, you're still precious and wonderfully made by your Creator. So important to know that, believe it, and go with that. So the one thing to remember, again, that our Creator is there not just waiting for us to turn around, but is also there to significantly be involved in that change, asking for God to show the way, and it will be done. Ask and you shall receive. Now, this extraordinary help will be given as long as you have the faith and the response to the promptings. You have to do something. God is not going to do it for you. He can't. God is not the Creator has created you to come back to God, to the Creator. And your return has to be voluntary and has to be done with effort and work to get back there. Some more work sometimes than others, but it's always a work of joy. So I think what I believe we need is in all of the change processes, first of all, hope, not fade away when something doesn't go as well as we think it should, but keep hope alive because it's important. And certainly faith in the presence of God within. Perseverance is very important in keeping it until success is achieved. Keep going. Don't stop. As long as you can keep going, you're going to be on the path. As long as you stop and get discouraged, it's a journey back from that, which wasn't necessary unless hope and faith has been lost. So we want to keep those up and keep persevering. and asking for help and support. There's always those around you, and there are those in the physical. I'm not just talking about those in spirit around to ask, and someone to join with you in your journey, because they need that too. You'll be mutually supportive probably. And forgiveness is a must. This is one of the most powerful change agents there is. And it said, those who can forgive much can love more than most people. Years ago, Abigail Van Buren wrote a column. She was Dear Abby. She wrote a column on forgiveness, and subsequent to that, she said there was such an important outflowing, such an impact on her readers, that she said she had no idea how important that article on forgiveness was. And I couldn't find the original article. I could find references, people talking about it, but I couldn't find the article. But people were really taking it seriously, and were saying how much just that article changed their lives. So this is very important in the process of change. And paying attention to common sense. Common sense comes from the soul. It's being offered when you listen, and feelings tell you immediately if something is off. There's always somebody out there to convince you that your feelings are wrong and try to sell you their own agenda. So in doubt, do nothing at the moment. Take it back into a neutral place. Do a check-in with yourself for the rightness or wrongness of something if you feel uncertain at the moment. And remember, you always have an inner advisor, always. Your creator will always provide you with that. And I think the most important thing to remember is pay attention. There are signals that come to us to help us. There are signals that come to say this is good or not. And there is dialogue going on around that might be very important to remember or to lock onto. If you can, that might be useful. Finding a lot of people aren't paying attention today. This fast-paced world is just shoving us, like jet streamed us, from one thing to another. And people, 3 situations have come up in the past month where I thought, these people are just, I'm talking, they're acknowledging me, and they come back and ask the same question. I thought, well, didn't you hear anything that we were just talking about? I don't know where their head was, but they seemed to be paying attention. But obviously their mind was someplace else. This was one in a medical situation. It was one on the phone with a company, and I can't remember what the other one was, but there were 3 times. And I thought, mindfulness is very much in the news, but I don't know how mindful, I don't know if people understand that. This is important. We need to pay attention. We need to listen. And we need to listen within, and we need to listen when, there are things being said to us, so that we don't misunderstand or we can ask questions. But being kind to yourself throughout all of this. Change is not a punishment. It's actually another way to serve God, if you look at it correctly. So don't forget to determine, first of all, when you're looking around saying, what should I change? What is your intention? You have to always set intention before you start anything. And then center and clear and ground and protect yourself. And then go within and connect with God with the understanding that you're actually turning this problem over, and ask for the help and then pay attention so that you can see when the help comes in or when the promptings are coming in. And affirmations for change would be helpful. And I'm going to obviously suggest, because these are powerful, faith, hope, and charity affirmations that we have on our website that we say before, like we said tonight, and that we say before all of our organizational meetings and other programs. They're powerful change agents. And these would be good for people to go to the website and download. Their PDF files that can be downloaded. Post them on your mirror, and you could say them every morning and every evening. They seem a little cumbersome to some people, but once you get into the swing of it, you realize what the words are saying. You realize how important those words are. You will remember them over time. So we let go when we give our problem to God, and then act when the promptings come in. So the majority of the work, is done behind the scenes for us, and we don't have any idea of. I think that statement is known, but sometimes it's hard to believe that there's so much going on behind the scenes that's so helpful, but it is true. And in our change and our changing world, there's a sort of a balance that we have to come to with either making the change, going with change, or stopping and thinking and being quiet and going into our own inner chamber and deciding what's what. But before we go into meditation, I want to point out that I think with all that I was reading and all that I was involved in this few days, the most powerful change agent is forgiveness. And I'd like to start there. And don't forget, it's also the process of forgiving is also a great amount of love in action there. And I would like to go through the meditation. This is by Jack Kornfield. He's trained and ordained as a Buddhist monk in the monasteries in Thailand, India, and Burma. He's taught meditation internationally since 1974 and is one of the key teachers to introduce Buddhist mindfulness practice to the West. And he's also a prolific author. So you could look him up, and his name is Kornfield, not C, Kornfield. And he says that forgiveness enables us to release from the sorrows of the past. It can arise spontaneously, but you can also develop this as a practice. So you need to be clear what it means. It does not in any way condone any harmful actions. While you forgive, you may also say, never again will I knowingly allow this to happen. So you can resolve to prevent further harm to yourself or others. Forgiveness does not mean you have to seek out or speak to those who caused you harm. You may choose never to see them again. That's one of the points that I think one of the people writing to Dear Abby said, forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. So she was giving her example in her family. But it's true. It does not necessarily mean that. It's an act of the heart. It's really to let go of any pain or resentment or anger that has been carried as a burden for so long by the individual. And it's easing our own heart when we forgive. So it's a process. It doesn't happen instantly unless you have been doing some inner work behind the scenes, and then you do one exercise and everything is done. But most of it is a process. So most of these things have been around for a while. And as you are doing these for yourself, or if you're teaching or you're helping somebody else, realize that the process is involved in this, and it will work beyond the statements that you are making and the meditations that you do. So I'm going to begin with that, and we'll move on to the rest of his meditation after the forgiveness. So if you can, be more comfortable where you are, and allow your eyes to close and your breath to be natural and easy. Let your body and mind relax. Breathing gently into the area of your heart. Let yourself feel any barriers you might have erected and any emotions that you have carried because you haven't forgiven. You're not forgiven yourself or not forgiven others. Let yourself feel this, but then breathe softly. Begin asking and extending forgiveness. And there are some words that you might use that he suggests. I am forgiving others. There are many ways that I have hurt and harmed others, have betrayed or abandoned them, caused them suffering, knowingly or unknowingly, out of my pain, fear, anger, and confusion. Remember and visualize the ways that you think have happened. And then remember that you was in fear or confusion. Feel your own regret for this. And sense that finally you can release this burden and ask for forgiveness. So if you have someone in mind, picture them, think of them, and then to each person in your mind, say, I ask for your forgiveness. I ask for your forgiveness. And do that with each person. Speak to them in spirit. Speak to their I am presence. And ask, I ask for your forgiveness. And there are many ways I have hurt and harmed myself. I have betrayed or abandoned myself many times through thought, word, or deed, knowingly or unknowingly. Think of your own precious life. Let yourself see the ways you have hurt or harmed yourself. Feel the regret and sorrow that you've carried from this. And sense now that you can release these burdens. Extend forgiveness for each of them, one by one. And repeat to yourself, for the ways I have hurt myself through action or inaction, out of fear, out of pain and confusion, I now extend a full and heartfelt forgiveness. I forgive myself. I do forgive myself. Let yourself gently repeat these. These words of forgiveness until you feel a release in your heart. Sometimes it's only some of the anguish gone, maybe not a full release. This is the process. So touch it softly. Be forgiving of yourself for not being ready to let go and move on. Forgiveness cannot be forced. It cannot be artificial. Breathe into it. I forgive myself. And now we can begin the practice of gratitude. By feeling year after year you have cared for your own life. Now let yourself begin to acknowledge all that has supported you in this care. And you might say, with gratitude, I remember the people, the animals and plants, the insects and creatures of the sky and the sea, creatures of the air and water, fire and earth, all whose joyful exertion blesses my life every day. With gratitude, I remember the care and labor of 1,000 generations of elders and ancestors who came before me. I offer my gratitude for the blessing of this earth that I have been given. I offer my gratitude for the measure of health I have been given. I offer my gratitude for the family and friends I have been given. I offer my gratitude for the community I have been given. I offer my gratitude for the teachings and lessons I have been given. I offer my gratitude for the life I have been given. Just as we are grateful for our blessings, so we can be grateful for the blessing of others. Now shift your practice to the cultivation of joy. Continue to breathe deeply but gently and bring to your mind someone you care about. Someone it is easy to rejoice for. Picture them and feel the natural joy you have for their well-being, for their happiness and success. With each breath, offer them your grateful, heartfelt wishes. And you might say, may you be joyful. May your happiness increase. May your good fortune and the causes for your joy and happiness increase. Then feel the joy and the caring that went into those statements. When you feel this to some degree of happiness for this loved one, extend this practice to another person you care about and recite the same simple phrases. May you be joyful. May your happiness increase. May your good fortune and the causes for your joy and happiness increase. And you can repeat this for others. Beautiful blessing for your loved ones. And let your feelings of joy fully fill your body and mind. Continue repeating these for as many people as you care. With the intention of joy and love over and over. And continue to do that through any resistances that might come up until you feel stabilized in joy. Then next you go to the people who are more difficult people in your life. And you keep extending that beautiful prayer and blessing from you to them. May you be joyful. May your happiness increase. May your good fortune and the causes for your good fortune and joy and happiness increase. And even take it to the most difficult people. May you be joyful. May your happiness increase. May your good fortune and the causes for your joy and happiness increase. And send that and extend it. Sympathetic joy to all beings everywhere. And this is a practice of dwelling in joy until there is no more effort to create this, just the intentions of joy, blending into the natural joy of your own wise heart. And those multitudes of blessings that you have given to those you have chosen this evening is gratefully received, is benefiting them and all around them. Our blessings of joy and goodwill and love. Practice as often as you can. And when you're ready, we thank God for the privilege of being together, joining spirit in this endeavor to create great change within ourselves, and change that can happen when we extend our blessings to another. It is a beautiful, bright, and shining light that surrounds each of you. And that light that is now squarely within your aura will continue to expand with every thought of forgiveness and joy and thankfulness that you have from now on. It will increase and bring you the change you desire. And when you're ready, then begin to come back from this inner journey back into your third dimensional world, your lower concrete mind, and join us here in our service. And as Jack Kornfield says, peace comes when our hearts are open like the sky and vast as the ocean. And welcome back. Well, thank you for coming this evening. And after we go off of our live streaming, we'll stay for a moment to share anything we would like to share later. In the meantime, I hope you've gone to our website and found our PayPal button. And we would appreciate any donations that can be given in any denomination. We have the option to have a small, if you care to, monthly donation that would be gratefully accepted as well, not just as a one time. And we would love to have you as a member. If you're not one now, please go to our website, and there is a place there to join as a member as well. We appreciate everything that you have done for us and are still doing. And God bless you all. And thank you.